When you think about the NFL, you think of dynasties, legendary players, and big moments. But one team has seen it all, literally from the very beginning. Today, we're diving into the long, winding, and fascinating story of the Arizona Cardinals, the NFL's oldest continuously run franchise.
So get this, when the league that we all know and love as the NFL was formed way back in 1920, the Cardinals were right there. They, along with the Chicago Bears, are the only two founding teams still around today. I mean, that is just some serious history.
But hold on, it goes back even further than that. The team was actually founded in 1898. No, that's not a typo. They existed for more than 20 years before the NFL was even a thing, starting out as just a neighborhood club on the south side of Chicago.
And, well, that's where we get to the big mystery of this team, right? With a history that deep, how is it possible that their last championship came all the way back in 1947? It's the question that has haunted this franchise for decades. So, let's unpack it.
Okay, so our story has to start where the team started. Chicago. Long before they were ever in the desert, they were a cornerstone of football in the Windy City for 60 whole years.
And their beginnings couldn't have been more humble. This wasn't some big money operation. It was the Morgan Athletic Club. Just a bunch of guys who loved football and wanted to play. It's pretty amazing to think that this team right here would one day become an NFL franchise.
You know, like any new club, they took a while to find their footing and their name. They went from the Morgan Athletic Club to the Racine Normals, then the Racine Street Cardinals, and finally, in 1922, they officially settled on the Chicago Cardinals, mostly so people wouldn't mix them up with another team from Racine, Wisconsin.
So how did they get the name Cardinals in the first place? It's a great story. The team's founder, Chris O'Brien, got his hands on some cheap used jerseys from the University of Chicago. They were this kind of faded maroon color, but O'Brien, being a great salesman, spun it. He declared the color was cardinal red, and boom, the name stuck.
Now, during their 6 decades in Chicago, the team managed to win the only 2 championships in its entire history. The first one, in 1925, is still argued about today. Fans of the Pottsville Maroons swear they got robbed of the title. But the 1947 championship was legit, a solid win over the Philadelphia Eagles.
But that Chicago success just didn't last. By the late 50s, the team was broke and completely living in the shadow of the crosstown Bears. So, in 1960, it was time for a change. The Cardinals packed their bags and moved to St. Louis.
Of course, St. Louis already had a very famous team called the Cardinals, the baseball team. So to keep things straight, everyone started calling them the Football Cardinals. Fans also came up with nicknames like the Gridbirds or Big Red.
But a new city didn't exactly translate to new success. Honestly, the St. Louis years were pretty forgettable. In 28 seasons there, the team only made it to the playoffs 3 times. And get this, they never hosted a playoff game and they never won one either.
With fans not showing up and the stadium getting old, another move was on the horizon. In 1988, the team headed out west to the desert, first as the Phoenix Cardinals and later the Arizona Cardinals, which kicked off the era we know today.
Moving to Arizona was a chance for a fresh start and a new identity. A big part of that came in 2005 when they totally redesigned their logo. The old one, which fans lovingly, or maybe not so lovingly, called the parakeet, was replaced with the much sleeker, meaner-looking bird they have today.
And then, the 2008 season happened. It was pure magic. With veteran quarterback Kurt Warner at the helm, the Cardinals went on this wild, unbelievable playoff run. They took down the Falcons, they stunned the Panthers, and then won an absolute nail-biter in the NFC Championship to get to the Super Bowl for the very first time.
And that Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers was an all-timer. It was an epic back-and-forth fight. And with just a couple minutes left, the Cardinals scored to take the lead. It felt like it was finally happening. The drought was about to be over.
But it wasn't meant to be. A miraculous touchdown catch by the Steelers in the final seconds sealed it. Final score, 27-23. It was just a brutal, soul-crushing loss, the closest they had come to a championship in over 60 years.
A loss like that on the world's biggest stage could absolutely destroy a team and its fan base. But for the Cardinals, something else happened. Instead of breaking them, it kind of forged this identity of incredible resilience that really defines them to this day.
And to really get that resilience, you have to understand the sheer scale of the weight. The Cardinals' championship drought, which goes all the way back to 1947, isn't just the longest in the NFL. It is the longest active drought in all major North American pro sports. We're talking NFL, MLB, NBA, and the NHL.
Yeah, just look at this. At 78 seasons, they're just ahead of Major League Baseball's Cleveland Guardians. That really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? Generations of fans have been born, lived their lives, and are still waiting for that championship parade.
And yet, through all of it, the moves, the losing seasons, the heartbreaking losses, the fans are still there. They're known as the Red Sea or the Bird Gang, and their loyalty is just legendary. Every single year, they show up full of hope that this is the year.
And that loyalty is a two-way street. The organization has built this incredibly strong bond with its community, especially with the armed forces, partly to honor the legacy of former player Pat Tillman, who tragically died while serving in the Army. It's a connection that's about way more than what happens on the field.
So, that brings us back to where we started. This is a team that was born in the 1800s, has crossed the country twice, and has made its fans wait longer than anyone else in sports. With over 125 years of history in the books, you just have to wonder, is this next chapter the one that finally breaks the drought?